wine country, God is good all the time. Well, today I need to make some more ranch dressing because we just ran out last night, and I plan on making another salad from the garden today. With all those great goodies growing out there, how can you not, right? Since I have to make some more ranch dressing, I figured now would be a good time for me to show you how I make my ranch dressing. Now, it's probably going to be different from other people's. This is just my recipe. There's all different types of recipes out there, but ranch dressing, no matter how you decide to make it, is so much healthier for you and cheaper to make doing it yourself, and it is super easy. Now, one recipe I recommend you check out is Stacy's recipe, and I'm going to link to hers right up here. Hers is similar, yet a little bit different. You may like the way she does hers a little better, or you may like this. It just depends on what kind of base you like. The other half of this video is my much easier way of making mayonnaise, because I'm going to be using homemade mayonnaise as the base for my ranch dressing. Now, your basic mayonnaise recipe is going to be basically the same as far as your spices, which isn't very much, but you can play with it and add whatever flavorings you want to it. I want to keep mine as simple as possible because I rarely use mayonnaise just as mayonnaise. I use it in ranch dressing, I use it in potato salad, and I use it for making tartar sauce. So I just like to keep it plain, and I can always add more spices to it depending on what I'm going to do with it. So for your basic mayonnaise recipe, instead of doing the mostly yolk method and maybe one whole egg, I use 2 whole eggs. To me, it's easier. I have found that when I've tried it doing with the 3 egg yolk method and 1 egg, I didn't get a thicker mayonnaise doing it that way. But this is just simpler. So that's what I'm starting with. Now, with this method, instead of like in the blender method, I'm actually going to put everything in this measuring cup first. In the blender method, you can't do it that way. This is another reason why this is the easier method. So once you have your 2 eggs, or if you choose to do the 3 egg yolks and 1 whole egg, you're going to use 1 cup of whatever oil, whatever healthy oil, I should say, that you prefer, whether it be grapeseed or olive oil. I have found for me, my personal preference is going to be the avocado oil. Now, this is the oil I most commonly use, and I will link to it below. Usually you can find it at Costco for a really good deal, but I'll put the Amazon link to that below. But this one I decided to try just for fun. Now, this isn't labeled as organic, but I decided to try it anyway. It was a good price, and I will link to this one below. Now, remember, avocados are one of those that are in the Clean 15, so I don't worry as much if it's not labeled as organic. So this one, the difference between this, and you can see if you've ever bought the Chosen Foods, it's very clear, it has no color to it. This one actually has a little bit of color, so it has a slight aroma to it and a little bit of flavor. It's very, very mild, still mild enough that it will blend well with just about anything, and I really like it. So I've been using this is all I've been using for making my mayonnaise. But anyway, 1 cup of your oil. So right now, your 2 eggs or your 3 egg yolks and 1 whole egg are going to equal about a 1/2 cup. So I just need to fill this up to the 1 1/2 cup point. Okay, so there's my oil. And then I'm going to use my Redmond real salt this time. And you only need about a 1/2 teaspoon of that. You don't want very much. You don't want your mayonnaise getting too salty. And then for some dry mustard, about a 1/2 teaspoon of that as well. And then you're going to use either a tablespoon of lemon juice or whatever good healthy vinegar you have on hand, which for me is going to be the raisin vinegar. It's the only fruit vinegar I have left right now. My other ones are brewing on top of the fridge, going to be ready next week for sure. So I'm using a tablespoon of that, and that's okay. I probably would have, if I had a choice and I had the pineapple and the apple and all that, I would choose the raisin for flavor any day when it comes to making stuff like this. So now, if you have your stick blender, this is what you're going to do next. Now I have mine plugged into our solar power, and this particular Cuisinart stick blender, it has been the best one I've had yet, and I will link to this one below. It was much better than my first one because I didn't have to hold down 2 buttons, and it has far more speeds on it. So I'm just going to stick that in there, and I'm just going to turn it on. On to the next step of making the ranch dressing. Now that we have our nice, wonderful, healthy homemade mayonnaise using farm fresh eggs, not our own yet, but those will be coming very soon. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take out a 1/2 cup of this mayonnaise and save it for making, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but either tomorrow I'm either going to make like a potato salad, or I'm going to make a salmon salad spread kind of thing. And so I'm going to take out a 1/2 cup of this. So, because what you should have when you're done with this is you should have about 1.5 cups, which is what I have. So I want to take out a 1/2 cup that I will use in making something different. And that looks about right. And one thing you'll find too, this is a good spreadable mayonnaise, even though it's still kind of runny. Because the thing is once you refrigerate it, it's going to set up a little bit more and get a little bit thicker. Because this is all room temperature right now. The eggs and everything is room temperature. Now, there's a few different things you can use to add to your mayonnaise in this recipe. I have used milk kefir before, and that was really good. You can use sour cream, or you can use your own homemade yogurt. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take about 1 cup of that. So what you'll end up with is 2 cups of your dressing. This is freshly made homemade yogurt. The milk kefir is really good because it has a little more zing to it than the yogurt. And unless, of course, you let your yogurt ferment for a longer period of time. It just depends on how you like it. I don't like my yogurt really sour. It just depends on how much zing you like. And you can even, to this dressing recipe, add more vinegar to give it more tartness if you like. Okay, so now for the spices. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of black pepper, and you can tailor this to suit you. Now, when I'm doing stuff like this, if I feel like maybe it's a little bit too runny, which again, this will set up in the refrigerator a little bit more. I often prefer to use dried spices for this. And dill weed, I'm going to use a tablespoon of that. Dill weed is one of the most important herbs to put into your ranch dressing. That's part of what gives it that ranch flavor. And then parsley, a tablespoon of that. It's pretty much tablespoon, 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 tablespoon. And we like lots of pepper. He likes lots of black pepper. I like lots of red. So whenever I use pepper, it's always going to be a lot. Tablespoon of granulated garlic. And a tablespoon of granulated onion. And then just blend it well. And then you've got your ranch dressing. Super, super easy. Now, you can add a little bit more salt. I don't recommend adding, I have some salt sitting here. I don't recommend adding salt to it if you're starting off with your homemade mayonnaise or anything that already has salt added to it, because you may want to taste it first. And if it then seems like it needs some salt, then just add maybe a 1/2 teaspoon. Otherwise, you can get a little too salty. All right, this is perfect just as is for flavor. Needs absolutely no more salt than that. So please make sure you do not add any salt until after you taste it first. If you want to be a little experimental with this and try adding more herbs and spices, feel free to do that. I would recommend red pepper if you're a spicy kind of person like me. I'm going to leave it out of this. But one thing I found with the ranch dressing is you don't want to go too crazy with your spices and herbs, because you're really going to lose your ranch dressing flavor. But one thing I'm going to say for sure is that I never liked ranch dressing until I started making my own. I was always the Italian dressing kind of person. And when I started making my own ranch dressing, because I was trying to get him off the store-bought garbage, now I eat it too because I like it so much better, the homemade stuff anyway. And again, look at the ingredients. Look at how many ingredients I used in this, and then look on the ingredients on the back of a ranch dressing. I don't care which brand it is or even how natural and healthy it says it is. Read those ingredients, and you may be surprised to find out what's all in it or even just how many are in there. You don't need that many to make a good tasty ranch dressing. Okay, and now this is just an added bonus. This is what I like to do, because we're not going to use all of this ranch dressing at once, is I like to store it in, whoa, I made a little bit more than 2 cups, in a pint-sized jar, which is going to fill this right up to the top, and then some, I think. Huh. Oh, just right to the top. And of course there's still a little bit left to scrape out of there. I'll use that with some zucchini that I just picked from the garden. So I'll use it as a dip. So good. And then I use a recycled peanut butter jar lid. I do have the ball plastic lids, and those are great too. But sometimes it's nice to have these colored ones for marking things, or just to have extra lids because they're basically free. So I get the organic peanut butter from the store, the smaller jars, because that's all they have in the organic. And then I just recycle the lid, and it fits great on to your regular mouth mason jars. So you see, this is a ball jar. It fits on the curd just the same way. And then I'll store it in the fridge like that, and then we need it, we just take the lid off and pour a little bit onto our salad, or even spoon it out depending on how thick it is. Because it, again, with all those dried herbs in there, it's going to thicken up even more. So it should be pretty thick by the time we're ready to use it as a dressing, even though we don't really need it too thick to pour onto our salad. All right, there you have it. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.